Good morning. Out here on the trap line. We've already walked to a few back the other direction. I kind of had a feeling there wouldn't be much of anything moving around last night. We had a pretty heavy storm move through around 10 p.m. Thunder, lightning, dumped a lot of rain throughout the night. So far, the traps I've checked, the beds have been fairly dry, no standing water. The dirt holes as well, no standing water. So I just left them. I'll probably leave them for another day, see if they catch overnight. If they don't, I'll freshen them up tomorrow morning. But I wanted to kind of go over, I have my GoPro with me on every walk, and I record small fragments here and there, but nothing to put together a longer video. So I thought today I might try to record some footage, talk a little bit about this being my greenhorn season into trapping, and also talk about the traps and different gear, what it costs financially, and also what it costs as far as how much time you need to dedicate towards it. So stick with me here. I'm gonna continue walking up to this next trap set. We'll talk a little more then. Got off that fire break that I was on a while ago. Now we're actually walking off back down to the woods, down into this valley. Pretty thick stuff down in here. I had 3 raccoon traps set in the creek down here for the better part of a week, and just absolutely no luck. And so I came back and scouted. I couldn't even find signs along the creek of raccoon prints or anything, so I just went ahead and pulled the traps, put them in a different location. But now I still have over here on this ridge, I have a Duke 550 in a big dirt hole set, and then down the hill behind it in another clearing I have a Duke number 2 as a backup set with it's a triangle of death set. And so they recommend that in January, when you do a coyote set, that you always have a backup for 2 reasons. One, if the first one don't get him, the second one usually will. And 2, a lot of times you can catch 2 at the same time. January is their breeding month, so a lot of times they travel in pairs, usually a female, usually a male. And I have seen where folks have caught the breeding pair at one time by having a backup set to the original set. So just a little bit of backstory of how I got into trapping and how this turned out to be my greenhorn season. So back in October, my wife was on the way one morning to take our kids to school and got a picture of what I assume to be an alpha male at the time. Now, since I've killed a few, I think it was just another normal dog. He was pretty though, and he was out a nice little hole there. He was out just after sunup in the morning, and he just sat in the middle of the road. My wife almost had to run over him before he would move, and then he just walked leisurely into the side of the woods and sat And that's when my wife took the picture. So she showed the picture to me, and instantly I wanted to get its fur to do something with. I had no idea how I was going to do it or what that entailed. And coincidentally, right around the same time, I was just getting into the deer hunting season and had noticed that a lot of my turkeys I've been seeing for the past few years had just diminished. At one point, we were seeing about 20 turkeys a day. And at the point she's seen that canine, I hadn't seen any turkeys in months. So I started doing some research, and I was turned on to trapping. Wasn't the first time I'd heard about trapping. I have a few friends who beaver trap, but I was turned on to it pretty hard about for the idea of trapping coyotes and fox, raccoon. So that set out to be my new goal. I traveled down to Bass Pro, bought a couple foothold traps. I bought a dog proof, and then I was informed by someone familiar with trapping that you have to boil and dye and wax the traps, which I had no idea about. So I had to start looking into that. Yeah, long story short, I was finally able to get traps in the ground about 8 days before Christmas, so somewhere around the 15th. And at the time I only had 2 Duke number 2s and 1 dog proof. And just so happens I was out of work for Christmas right then at that time, so I was able to keep them in the ground for several days. And I did, they did catch. I caught several coons, a possum, and 2 coyotes. And I did so without having any of the expensive fancy tools. I didn't have a drill and the auger for the dirt holes. I didn't have garden trowels. I was digging my trap beds with a claw hammer. I made my own earth stake driver. I made my own stakes for the raccoon sets. So I didn't have any bait or call lures or any of that. I was literally taking older meat out of the refrigerator and setting it outside to let it taint and putting that down in dirt holes. And it worked. That's what caught the first 2 coyotes that I ever caught, was tainted meat. No call lure, no bait, no commercial bought stuff. However, I have now bought into the commercial made stuff. It makes life a lot easier, especially when you walk a trap line. You carry all your gear on your back. You don't have a pack mule or a four-wheeler to carry it all for you. And I'm working a trap line here. This is the farthest traps from my house. These are about 3/4 of a mile now. So it usually takes me roughly 3 hours to walk the line, check all the traps, if I don't have anything caught. If I have things caught, then it takes longer. But yeah, the traps are right up here on this bend, so stay with me. All right, so finally made it to these traps. This dirt hole set is right up here. Don't look like it caught, which so there you can see it. That trap bed is actually pretty wet. Something's been in that dirt hole. It's drug the sheep's wool out again. I refreshed this set yesterday. Put fresh cow urine, fresh meat, fresh long call lure. It's been in the ground for 5 days and no sign of coyote. Now this set down here, down at the bottom of the ridge, doesn't look like anything caught in it, but we'll walk down there to make sure. I caught a coyote in it Saturday, and then I caught a possum in it yesterday, and they've torn this one up pretty well. It's got a pretty good trap circle. This is the backup set that I was telling you about. It's a flat set with a Duke number 2, and it's a triangle of death. I got that little log there as a backing. The trap bed looks a little wet, but not horrible. So I'm just gonna leave it. And yesterday that possum, I could not get him to leave. I checked his foot, made sure it wasn't broken. Everything was good. Before I left, I actually ended up carrying him and putting him over under that huge holly tree over there. And he's gone now, so that's a good sign. That means he's taken off and gotten out of here somewhere. But that's it for today. I mean, that's 7 traps, nothing caught overnight. I didn't figure it would. So back to the other point I was making about my greenhorn season. I trapped up until from Christmas up until like January 5th. When I went back to work, I pulled all the traps, and then I didn't basically have any traps in the ground until like January 20th, 19th, I think. And I put my first day off of work for the month, I put as many traps into the ground as I could, knowing that I would have the next 8 to 10 days. So really and truly, I've only gotten about 15 full days of trapping, and I've managed to get 3 coyote furs and 2 raccoon furs and 2 squirrel furs. I could do a lot better if I had the time, but you know, that's another one of the topics that I was going to talk with you about today is time dedication. You really got to have the time to come out here every day and check, preferably several days in a row. You'll get different answers from different people, but generally speaking, it takes 24 to 48 hours for a coyote set to work. They're pretty smart animals. They're not going to come right into an area where they know a human's been or can smell a human. That's why you buy the coyote urine to spray down around the set, so that they will smell that, mask the human scent as well. However, I have had it happen now where all 3 coyotes that I've caught have been less than 24 hours and generally overnight. All 3 of them were overnight catches. But as far as time, you really need 5, 6, 7 days in a row that you can go out, put traps in the ground, and have nothing else to do on those 7 days but check your traps and deal with the outcomes of each trap. You know, you'll catch animals and you'll need to clean them, and depending on if you're going to keep the meat, you'll need to butcher them, and then you'll have to do something with the fur to preserve the fur. If you're after the fur, salt it, salt bath, flesh. You might as well go ahead and set aside probably 5 to 6 hours every day of your day while you've got traps out, to trapping, dedicated to trapping. You could probably get away with less, and I'm sure more experienced people do. I don't have anything going on during the day, so I have no problem dedicating 5 or 6 hours a day to walking through the woods and hanging out with animals and seeing different things. As far as financially goes, you could probably set up a small trap line with 4 or 5 traps for less than $100. If you go on eBay, you can find deals for lots of traps, anywhere from 5 to 15. Prices vary depending on how many you get, but they're advertised as cabin decor. Most of them are already rusted, pretty vintage looking. And I bought 5 Victor 1.5s for $20. And so, you know, if someone new is trying to get into trapping, that's a pretty good way to go. You could get, you know, 5 Victors for $20, and then if you didn't want to buy the dye and the wax, you could always make your own. There are ways to do that out of acorns, different barks from different trees. You basically put them in a pot, boil it down until it turns into a dye, then dip your traps in it. I found it just as easy to pay $6 for a bag of dye that will dye 300 traps, and $5 for a 1 pound bag of wax that will dye 300 traps. And then you can put them in a 5-gallon bucket over the fire to boil them, dye them, and wax them. Or that's how I originally done my first set of traps. The second set of traps I bought, I found a cheap electric stove eye from the dollar store for $8-10. I plug it up outside, put a pot on it, and it does all the things I need to do now, especially if it's raining or something like that. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and shove that sheep's wool back up into that hole. So bear with me. All right, got that trap bed reorganized, freshened up a little. But back to what I was saying, it can be done fairly cheap. As you progress, you'll find that you'll want to buy more stuff. I started carrying a 5-gallon bucket on my back. That was my pack bucket. I drilled some holes, attached some eye loops, put backpack straps on it. I made some wax dirt. I would fill it up with wax dirt, and I would put all my trapping gear down in it, and that's what I would carry. I did that for a while, and it started hurting my back pretty good, so I went ahead and swapped over to a backpack. Now I carry all my gear into a backpack, and I'm still learning and working my gear down that I don't need on every trip. Some trips you're going to carry more gear, especially when you're are just putting sets in the ground, you'll have to have earth anchors, and you'll have to have trapping wire, and you'll have to have your earth anchor driver and your hammer. And so some days the bags can be heavier, some days they can be lighter. So as far as time, like I was saying, you really need 6-7 days in a row if you want to really improve the greatest chances of catching something. And each day you'll need to be able to dedicate anywhere from 2 hours to 7 or 8 hours. Yesterday I got on the trap line early in the morning and I was still fleshing fur by headlamp after dark. So yesterday was a full day, 8 to 10 hours of me doing something that involved trapping. And I go back to work on night shift later this week, and originally I had attempted to leave a few traps near the house out that I could check when I got off of work in the morning, but I learned real quick that if I had caught something, then I'm gonna be losing a lot of valuable sleep during the day for work the next night. So I opted to just pull my traps all together when I'm on shift for the month. And so that really reduces my days of trapping to about 8 to 10 days a month. Is really all I've got for this season. This upcoming season, 2021 season, I'm gonna do things different. I'm gonna probably take some vacation time so that I can get 15 or 20 days in a row of traps out. I'll have a surplus of baits and lures and different things by that point. Now, as far as financially, it's gonna be really your own, you know, every person's gonna have different gear, and each gear, depending on if it's homemade or bought, is gonna be difference in the price of cost. So I have roughly $200 to $300 invested at this point, and that's with some of my gear being homemade. That's with some of my gear being homemade and then realizing that they're not going to work and buying the actual gear. And then that's just with buying gear and not even dealing with doing the homemade stuff. And as I progress, things seem to work better and better and better. Something I forgot to mention in the earlier when I was talking about why. Another reason why is because it's self-reliance. So I'm teaching myself how to trap, how to flesh, how to tan animal furs, and I'm going to be doing fur on and fur off. I'll be able to make buckskin and leather, and I'll be able to create my own clothes and hats and mittens and such. So in the event that a collapse happens, or we're quarantined again, or martial law, or, you know, insert theory, I will be able to sustain myself out of my cabin for months and months and months. Not that I already can't, but this just adds another part to the resume that's good to know. And maybe, you know, here's some good holes. You can see where they've dug out. Shit's been standing there. Maybe in the next couple days I'll do a video on my bag that I carry when I come into the woods. All of my gear that I keep with me for most walks. And then maybe I'll do another video after that on the gun that I've built to be a trapline gun, and the gun that I'm working on building to hopefully have for next trapline season. This is the creek that I actually had raccoon traps set on. Little pocket sets, probably about every 100 yards down through there. Just absolutely no sign of those animals down here. There's tons of videos on YouTube of guys showing you how to set the traps, how to make a trap bed, how to do a dirt hole set, how to do this set, how to do that set. Most likely I will not be doing any of those type videos. One, there's already plenty of them. Two, I really don't know what I'm doing good enough yet to be trying to educate someone else on what to do. I'll leave that to the guys who actually know what they're doing. I won't be selling my fur. My fur is for personal use. I did get the commercial trapper's license. If I wanted to sell it, I could legally. But for the most part, this is going to be for personal use. If I want someone to have my fur, it will most likely be a gift. So just so everyone knows, I'm not doing this to make money. This is purely hobby, I guess you could say. Some scat down in that hole. This is purely hobby, hobby slash educational, teaching myself how to live self-reliantly, how to know and track animals and find their signs, and so headed back to the house now. When I get back to the house, I'll go ahead and show y'all how or what I do. Look at this. I just found a deer shed. And that's a big deer. When I make it back to the deer shed, I'll go ahead and show y'all the deer shed. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Anyways, I'm just gonna cut it here. When I get back to the shed, I'll show y'all the first shed. So we made it back to the shed. I'm actually gonna open this sucker up and let it breathe in here. So on the way out a while ago, y'all seen I found this deer shed not far up the hill. Ended up finding this turtle shell, and so with the last turtle shell, I actually bulled it and cleaned it out really well. Ended up making a cup slash bowl out of it, so that's pretty cool. So here's the coyote fur that I was working on yesterday. I got it fleshed all the way out. Here's a raccoon that I killed, and you still see that it needs a good bit of fleshing up through here where it's good and fat, and then some stuff down here. It just got late and I had to eat dinner and stuff last night. I wanted to finish out this video by showing y'all what I was talking about. So this is one of the number 1.5 Victor that I bought, along with this one, and then these two. Actually, one of them is down there as a raccoon set right now, but these came on one package from a seller on eBay. They were listed as vintage cabin decor. I got them. You could definitely tell that they had been used to trap animals at some point. They were dirty, but they already had a good coat of rust on them. 2 of them already had dye, so I just went ahead and bulled all of them, cleaned them up with a wire brush, re-dyed them, and waxed them. And so I just wanted to show you all that these are plenty big enough to hold raccoon, probably a small fox, muskrat, river otter, mink. You could probably get away with a small bobcat. I don't know if a coyote would hold. A coyote could probably pull his foot out of them. They are pretty strong. This is the number 1 long spring. It's a Duke. So it's hanging on the wall because I've had it in the ground 3 times now, and all 3 times something has been in it and managed to get out of it. So I cut my losses, and it'll probably be a hanging ornament now. And just to go back to the, you can do things more cheap, or you don't have to buy the best. This is my homemade fleshing beam. Basically all it is a 6-foot piece of log that I cut whenever I was cutting some firewood last time. This metal here on the front is just some extra I had. Now I've had to do some things to modify it to make it work, but you can see where I was fleshing last night. There's some of the raccoon fat hanging. These split logs up top are really meant to mimic like a 6 or 8, maybe 10-inch round PVC pipe that I'm eventually gonna get and put here instead of these logs. But it works, and I've fleshed all of my hides right here on this for free. Now I could go and find scrap pallets or whatever and build a different style logging or fleshing beam, but why when I have this here? This is also something else that I've built, a fire pit with a grate, and then teepee. You can wrap the hides around the teepee for smoking. These are all things that I've done. It's just taking time. Firewood, trail back into the woods for firewood. There's my hanging tree over there. So just to show you that it can be done on the cheap side, and you can have a lot of fun doing it without spending a lot of money. Here's an older coyote pelt that needs to be broken. It's been tanned. And then this first deer pelt I killed December 1st. I ended up letting the hide turn to rawhide. I didn't have a fleshing knife and I didn't know what I was doing, so yeah, that's about it for this video. That's all I wanted to go over. I will work on getting another video together about my gear bag, my gear bucket, and my gun that you see there that I've recently built. And I'll try to get this video edited and put up pretty quick so I can get to those as well. Days like today when I ain't got a whole lot going on the trap line, I can get more stuff done. Till next time, folks.